seeking to destroy the Conservative Party or join it?
Oh, they've destroyed themselves. They don't need my help. I mean, that job's done already. What Conservative? Is there a Conservative Party? I hadn't spotted it. I mean, all I can see really are two big social democrat parties. I mean, if you look at economics and many, many other areas, I mean, the policies are virtually identical. Yeah, sure, there's VAT on school fees and there are one or two things, but I can't think there's ever been less of a choice. I can't think there's ever been such a lack of debate, genuine debate. I mean, the economics of this, oh, well, you have to cut this to pay for that. I mean, nobody even talks about the fact we're running budget deficits. So there is a lack of proper debate between two leaders who really politically are not all that far apart. The Conservative Party, and remember those voters, the Red Wall voters, well, they actually were Ukip voters and Brexit Party voters. There was this idea in 2015, hysterical in some of the Conservative press, that if you vote for UKIP, Labour will win. Well, actually, what the UKIP vote in 15 did was give David Cameron a majority, because we hurt the Labour Party far more in the Midlands and the North than anybody had thought. So in a sense, I think of myself as the gateway drug through to the 2019 Conservative vote. And those people did vote for Boris Johnson. And in some ways, you know, I did give them a little bit of a wave, didn't I? I did say, kind of, you know, it's all right if you want to vote for Boris Johnson. And they're the ones that feel completely betrayed, totally let down. It isn't just immigration, it's you know, rafts of self-employed people, small business owners, feeling that Brexit should have brought some level of an easing of rules, and in some areas, actually the rules have got worse, not better, and that's our fault. Those people are not voting Conservative. In fact, some of the polling we've got for the Reform vote shows that even if we packed up tomorrow, they wouldn't go back to the Conservatives. Some would, a tiny number would, in fact slightly more might go back to Labour, interestingly. So no, they've wrecked it for themselves. Now, of course, they'll come up with the same argument, and Mel Stride was doing it this morning. They'll say that a vote for Reform is a vote for Labour. But when the public realise, and they're realising it already, this election is a foregone conclusion. Labour are going to win. And they're going to win quite big. And therefore, you could argue, actually, that a vote for the Conservative Party is a wasted vote. And given that you know Labour are going to win, why not vote for something that you actually believe in? Because here's the problem. The Conservatives will be in opposition, but they won't be the opposition. They are too split, they are too divided, they're too... I mean, goodness me, they've been fighting amongst themselves in government for years. Goodness knows what they're going to be like in opposition. And the important thing about this party, and the reason that I changed the name from the Brexit Party to Reform, was this is a 6-year plan. This is not about a quick hit in a few weeks' time. This has always been, and certainly my thoughts behind it, and Richard Tice agrees totally, this is all about building a base from which we go on and launch a serious assault at the next general election in 28 or 29, or whenever it may be. So I hope and pray that we get a cohort, and we're going to get millions of votes, of that there's no question. But I hope and believe we can get a cohort of MPs in Westminster so that we can be the voice of opposition. And as for joining the Conservatives, well, I think honestly, it's more likely that you finish up with a Canada-type situation of 30 years ago, where a party coincidentally called Reform became the new party of the centre-right in Canadian politics. And Stephen Harper, who was first elected as a Reform MP, became ultimately the premier of a completely brand new Conservative movement. And I think that's where we see ourselves, how we see ourselves looking ahead. You know, it's not easy under first past the post. I've never pretended that it is. Nobody alive knows more than me how difficult it is. But that's the plan. How could it get worse? I mean, there's only a certain number of dinghies the traffickers could get their hands on. How can it get worse? And this argument, well, the Tories are absolutely hopeless and have betrayed you, but the other lot are worse. Vote Conservative. They're going to lose anyway. It's the point I made just a moment ago. And I think the public are realising that. They're going to lose anyway. Quite honestly, I don't think, whether it's the Channel or whether it's legal migration, I don't think there's any difference between the Labour and Conservative parties whatsoever. It was Labour that opened the doors in an irresponsible way that has led to these areas that we see where there is a lack of integration. All the Conservatives have done is to accelerate the process. Just look at the numbers. So no, I don't buy that argument in any way at all. Well, I think the one thing the French will respect is firmness, and I don't think we've had very much of that. And I do, Charles, reiterate my point that the escorting by the French Navy is aiding and abetting criminal trafficking. And if the French won't cooperate, well, we may have to use the Royal Marines and send some people back to the beaches of France. But I hope it never gets to that, but it may have to come to that. They need to know that we're serious. We've given them a vast sum of money. It is not working, and the French Navy should not, I repeat, not be doing what they're doing. Someone needs to make that clear. Nobody thus far has. Literally nobody. Not a declaration of war. No, we don't intend to have that. But we have to persuade the French army. It used to happen years ago here, I know. But we have to persuade the French that what their navy is doing is absolutely plain wrong. Wrong at every level. Well, first question, look, 6 weeks is not long enough to take on a parliamentary seat, and it's me. You know, it's me. I stood for Ukip many, many times, which was a pressure group that used elections to push out its message. And of course, if we saved our deposit, I mean, that was enough for an all-night party. Never needed much excuse, I know, but... and I've only stood once for Parliament, seriously, and what happened? I stood just a few miles up the road here, and what happened? Third-party campaign groups spent unbelievable sums of money putting negativity through people's doors, the likes of which you can't believe. The Conservatives cheated to such an extent that one of the agents got a 9-month prison sentence for mass overspending. So for me to fight and win any constituency, I'm going to need a lot of time and a lot of data. I can't do that in 6 weeks. So you can call me what you like, but I think realist might be more accurate. But I'm very, very happy to support the campaign, and I want us to have a proper debate. And we started today on this question of illegal immigration and the fact that nobody's offering anything that's going to be a solution, and we're going to move on over the next few weeks to economics and many, many other issues. Now, of course, this general election matters. It matters less than previous ones because it's over already. Such is the collapse of support for the Conservatives. They will not win a single red wall seat. There is absolutely neither. I know those voters. There is no chance at all of that happening. The American election is important for this reason. The world is in a worse place, a more dangerous place than it's been at any point since the Cuban Missile Crisis, and even I wasn't born when that happened. Strong American leadership, standing up to bullies, and leading a strong NATO are absolutely vital for our national security. And I believe the world was a much better, safer place with Donald Trump in the White House than it's been with Joe Biden. So that's the context. I'm not saying Britain doesn't matter. Far from it. Of course not. I'm British. I'm here. But I do think who wins in America for global safety is absolutely vital. I genuinely do. Hello.
You talk a lot about British values. What are they?
I didn't talk a lot about British values, but I think women playing a part. I mean, you're here, which is interesting because if you were at an Angela Rayner meeting, I doubt you'd be welcome. And indeed, if you see the victory celebrations from the local councillors, from Burnley to Bradford to Leeds to elsewhere, no women. This is a new form. And by the way, this doesn't affect. The idea that I'm saying this is all British Muslims is absolute nonsense. I think the most concerned group, the most worried group about what's going on with this new form of sectarianism are British Muslims who are working, paying their taxes, wanting their kids to do well. It's them that perhaps are going to be the worst affected by this if this current unpleasant trend continues. So that's one thing I would say. Attitudes towards homosexuality, many other social issues. Of course there are social conservatives in the Roman Catholic Church and elsewhere, and I understand that, but not perhaps quite to the same degree. But I tell you the thing that I thought was alarming, maybe you'll agree, maybe you won't, but I thought in that recent JL Partners poll, and we don't see many polls that actually look at the Muslim population and their attitudes, But when 23% of 18 to 24-year-olds say they support the concept of jihad, I put it to you, that's not exactly a British value. And I think that's what we should be concerned about. And look, it's obvious to everybody that since October the 7th, there has been increased radicalisation in this country. And, you know, I'd never have thought that I would speak to some friends who've got a Jewish girl at a British university who's getting, I mean, not teasing, but real abuse to the point of, well, do I really want to be part of this? So I think there are some very disturbing trends. And I think our British values are pretty clear. And I really worry about sectarian politics. That's what it is. You know, we've seen it in Northern Ireland, and I now see it creeping in to parts of England, and I'm very concerned by it. Oh, he's very keen on debates. Hadn't you heard? He wants to have 6 debates with Keir Starmer. Well, all I'm saying is have one with me. And many will say, well, why you? Why should he debate you? Well, there is a precedent for this. You know, in 2014, Nick Clegg was the Deputy Prime Minister of the country, and he challenged me live on LBC. He challenged me to a debate because he saw that I was the leading voice for leaving the European Union. So Clegg and I did that debate, and then subsequently we did one with the BBC as well. If you can tell me there's somebody with a more prominent voice that has written, spoken more about the situation here, then please tell me who it is. You know, if this is his flagship policy, and you really believe in it, Mr. Sunak, come and debate it with the person who spent years studying it and campaigning on it. That's why I think he should do it. Yes. Look, the point is, Sunak is selling something to the British public that is wrong and dishonest. That's the point I'm making. Oh no, Starmer, I mean, Starmer's got nothing to offer in any way at all. I mean, I'll debate Keir Starmer on it if you want. I mean, I just about stay awake that long enough, I'm sure I could. You know, it's all of them. And it isn't just this. There's so many areas we're not having a proper debate. As I said earlier, when I did conferences like this in 2013, 14, 15, you all said the same thing. You'll let a Labour government in because all the people that vote for you will be Conservatives. The fact is, if reform gets momentum in this campaign, they will start to eat very deep into the patriotic old Labour vote. Right at the moment, that's more distorted because it's coming from 2019. It's coming from those voters who'd come from Labour, through Ukip, through the Brexit Party to the Conservatives. But that makes no difference to the Conservatives. That's gone anyway. They've destroyed themselves without any help from reform, without any help from me. So I genuinely think we're not heading for an election where, you know, on the Sunday breakfast table before election day, families say, well, who do we want to win, or who do we least want to win, which is often under first past the post how we vote. We often vote for the least worst. I think by then Labour will still be so far ahead in the polls that it'll give people freedom to vote for what they actually want. And I do believe that the manifesto, the agenda that reform is building up, is the right one for opposition in the next 5 years.